There we go, waiting for that recording. Perfect. So good evening again, everyone, and welcome to our WGU AMA event, Building Your Social Media Playbook. We are very excited to have everyone here. Again, thank you if you have filled out that Slido. We do encourage you to post questions in our chat. Now, we may not be answering all of the questions now, but we will certainly send out our answers after the meeting in a Q&A in a PDF format. So definitely post your questions. We'd love to know what's on your mind, and we will certainly get back to you and address those questions and send that back out to you. So, all right, excellent. We're going to go ahead and introduce our panelists here. And we're going to give Jamie, our third panelist here, just another moment to jump in. But as we get going, let's go ahead and introduce Jennifer Radke. She is the CEO of the National Institute for Social Media and OMCP. And Jennifer, if you wouldn't mind, go ahead and say hello, introduce yourself, give us a fun fact about you if you don't mind, or maybe even the first job that you had.
Hey, well, good evening, everybody. I'm super excited to be here tonight. I am Jennifer Radke, the CEO of those two organizations, the National Institute for Social Media and OMCP, where we do industry certifications for marketing professionals. This has not always been my job. So I was in higher education prior to this, and I love what I get to do now. Fun fact, I got to spend some time this past November in the Amazon. I was down for a conference in Suriname, South America. So you can all Google that a little bit later. And they took us for 4 days into the Amazon as a thank you to the speakers. That was really fun. So.
All right, excellent. Well, very nice to have you here. Don't think I've ever met anyone that's been to the Amazon like that, so thank you very much. Already excited and learning so much. Let's go ahead and introduce our next panelist, Jessica Steinweg. She is the Director of Social Media, excuse me, I'm sorry, Director of Marketing for Brandstar Entertainment. And Jessica, same deal. Love to know a little bit more about you, fun fact, or maybe that first job that you had.
Or both. We'll find
or
out.
Both.
Hi, guys. Very honored to be here. Again, my name is Jessica Steinweg. I'm the Director of Marketing of Brandstar Entertainment. I've been with Brandstar Entertainment for, oh goodness, it feels like a million years, but it hasn't been quite that long. I've been with us since 2010, and I lead a very diverse marketing team and the marketing efforts that support, goodness, 9 different television brands. We produce 7 TV shows at my company and 2 television spin-off series, most of which air on the Lifetime network. But just to run through, I guess, a sample of some of the TV shows that we produce. We produce a TV show called Military Makeover with Montel, which we happen to be a partner with Western Governors University on. I'm very, very proud of that partnership. We produce a TV show called The Balancing Act, Be Latina. We do have a business-to-business oriented TV show that we produce that airs on Fox Business and Bloomberg International. I'm sorry, Bloomberg US. Words matter. And so do specifics. And that one's called Inside the Blueprints. And we're quite excited. We recently acquired a new television property that is hosted by Dr. Drew, and it's called Health Uncensored with Dr. Drew, and it's actually going to be debuting on Lifetime on January 22nd at 7:30 a.m. ET/PT. So lots of cool, fun, creative things cooking up in my lane. And of course, I oversee the team that does social media for all of these different TV shows and spinoffs. Fun fact and or first job. So in full transparency, my first job was in high school, and I was a cashier at a grocery store in Florida where I reside called Publix. So humble beginnings lead to great things. Everybody has to get started somewhere. And a cool fun fact about me, I'm what I lovingly call a cinematic fanatic. I love movies. That's usually my love language, is talking about movies and television. That's how I ended up in the biz. And I love spending time collaboratively with other creative people. So happy to be here. Happy to talk all things creativity and strategy.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Jessica. Very interesting. Love to hear about that background. I'm seeing in the chat some Jason saying love those pub subs. So we have a Publix insider. I too reside in Florida, so Jessica and I had that conversation yesterday. So go Publix. But thank you very much for that info. It does seem like Jamie, unfortunately, is having some trouble getting into the room. So we do apologize for our next panelist, Jamie Doughty. We're going to keep an eye out if she's able to jump in here. But let's go ahead and chat about, I do believe, why everyone's here, aside from the panelists, of course. But let's go ahead and chat about that great social media strategist certification prep course and voucher giveaway. So a couple of requirements, qualifying requirements, if you will. You must be a WGU alumni or current student. You must be present to win. So yes, you do have to be here at the end of our presentation to go ahead and claim that prize. As you can see, some of those benefits, you get to demonstrate that comprehensive knowledge and skills with social media platforms and those various tools. Certification is recognized by the industry for that additional credibility and networking opportunities with our social media professionals, such as our panelists. And for that lucky winner, you will get an email with instructions to claim that prize after the meeting concludes. So good luck to the future winner here very soon. And we are very excited to get going. Wonderful. And just wanted to make sure we gave Jamie that time, just in case. Not sure if she was able to jump in here just yet. But if not, we can certainly go ahead and move forward and ask our current panelists here some very interesting questions. All right. If not, let's go ahead and just jump right in. So Jessica, if you don't mind, this first question is for you.
Okay.
And first question is, how do you ensure that social media marketing aligns with broader business goals and integrates effectively into your overall marketing strategy? And please do feel free to include an example of something you have worked on in the past.
Sure. Well, in order for you to be able to develop a strategy, right, you can't know how to get there if you really don't know where you're going, right? So I think that the first and foremost thing is to have a clear and concise and deliberate plan and KPI in mind. And if you guys don't, I'm with so many budgeting marketers here. So if you don't know what KPI stands for, that stands for key performance indicator. So what you should have a clear vision in your head. What is it that you're working towards, right? If you are a social media professional and you are running your own social media agency and you're handling freelance business, right? Or if you're a social media professional working at a company or an advertising agency, and at the end of the day, what is most important is to understand what are the pain points of your client, right? So let's say that you are a social media professional and that you are strategizing on a social media campaign on behalf of McDonald's. Well, you would want to have a clear vision. What is McDonald's trying to accomplish? What are they trying to accomplish specifically through social media? Are they hoping to create more engagement with their audience, with their client base? Are they trying to merely recruit new followers or expand that audience, right? So I think that the most important thing to do first and foremost is to know what your North Star is, to know what your why is. And then once you have that goal in mind, then it becomes very clear on what the path towards that is. So, for example, if it's a goal in mind where you're trying to create engagement, right? That might include a little bit of research on your end as a marketer, perhaps evaluating what type of social media posts have been working for that brand up to that point, testing new tactics also. If you see that something isn't working, they say if it's not broke, don't try to fix it, right? If you see that something isn't working within social media, it's time to test something new. So I think through the process of knowing what it is that you're working towards, knowing who it is that you're trying to reach, and knowing their behavior, knowing the limitations or flexibility of the brand that you're working with, right? And also keeping in mind too is the strategy that you have in place, does it align with your brand's core mission? All of these things are very important to keep in mind. And when executed beautifully, it can create authenticity with an audience. It can create longevity with an audience. And of course, hopefully at the end of the day, a group of loyal followers.
Excellent. Thank you so much. I love that. Know your North Star. That was awesome. Know your why. So great advice. Thank you so much. Jennifer, next question for you. If you don't mind, let's chat about what emerging social trends do you see shaping the future of social media marketing, and how can businesses stay ahead of the curve?
Great question, and one that comes out all the time, and especially this time of year. So I'm sure if anyone is working in digital or social media currently, you've seen probably 100 different reports out about the trends for 2025 and all the things you have to know. So I'm going to try to cover a couple of things. The first one is I'm going to say, don't have to digest all of those. And some of them are right, and some of them are just taking a shot in the dark. And frankly, some of them are putting out their hopes for the future, So just be careful. Everybody's doing it because that's the information that everybody wants, right? Like, what's the hot thing that I should be on? Because we all have this fear of missing out. So some things we know to be true. Video still rocks digital media, right? What we're seeing, though, is in the past, it was becoming shorter and shorter and shorter. And as we've seen towards the end of 2024, it's now starting to widen out a little bit again. So YouTube Shorts now is 3 minutes. TikTok was up to 10 minutes. Instagram increased, and they are seeing an average between 15 seconds and 90 seconds. They're still short form. We're not talking hour-long videos. But I think you're going to see that continue, right? I think YouTube Shorts is going to play a big part. No one knows what's going to happen to TikTok. And if I might put a little bit of plug in here, if you're working with a brand, as a person, I don't care what you do, but if you're working with a brand, do not push them onto Red Note right now. That is not the smartest move. It's not a good strategy. Your audience likely doesn't speak Mandarin. So that's that. Anyways, other trends. Let's talk about that. Storytelling has been a thing for a long time, but what we really want to hear is the truth. We are dying for it right now because there's so much that's false out there. So what you can do to tell your story through the lens of the people you serve, your customers, your employees, the community, is going to be extremely powerful in the coming year. There's a couple of other things. We did a job study in 2024, and we found that as marketing professionals, there are some trends that unfortunately haven't gone away, and I don't think they're going to in 25 either. And that is, as professionals, we feel a lack of respect and a lack of misunderstanding. Nobody knows what we do, the skills that it takes to do the work. And unfortunately, there's still this perspective of my 14-year-old kid can just put something out on Instagram. And that's not true. So one of the things that we need to continue to do in 25 is educate not only the people that we work with by setting realistic expectations about what your job entails, but we need to communicate that with human resources so we're not putting out unrealistic job descriptions and asking people to be unicorns. Social listening also is growing faster than, get this, AI within our space. So the year-over-year change of social media marketers using listening tools. Between the two, social listening was higher and growing faster than AI. And so that is going to continue to be a thing in 25. We need to be paying attention to what our audience is talking about, what they need from us, where they're saying it, right? And who they are. But AI is, of course, that other trend. We have to figure out how to use it and use it responsibly in our work. So those are just a few.
Excellent. Wow. Thank you so much. I do want to ask a follow-up question, if you don't mind. Could you elaborate on, you said listening tools, and especially since you're saying it's outpacing AI, which is a pretty big deal. So if you don't mind maybe just giving us a moment or two to elaborate a little bit on those listening tools?
Sure. When we did a deeper dive into what they're using, it really there wasn't like a clear winner. What people are doing, though, is spending a lot more time using different tools to listen. And so for some people, that's the platforms themselves. They're using that time to really cultivate keywords, to pay attention to conversations, to look at brand sentiment. Others are using tools, like Sprout Social or Meltwater or some of the other tools to kind of compile a bunch of listening data and then pile through it. Unfortunately, I think a lot of people are still using the tools to gather, but they're not really using the data yet. So that's where we might see a change coming as well.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you so much. Very interesting, and
Mhm.
appreciate that detailed response. So wonderful.
Mhm.
All right, Jessica, let's go ahead, jump back, if you don't mind. Let's go ahead and discuss what are the key factors to consider when selecting influencers or brand ambassadors for a campaign. And if you don't mind, let us know, how do you measure the ROI, return on investment, of influencer partnerships?
Oh my gosh, that's a lot to unpack with that question. And I'm glad that you asked me. It's influencer marketing is a specialty of mine. It's one of my favorite aspects of social media marketing. I find the influencer landscape to be continually exciting, and it's ever changing. Getting started, I think a really awesome best practice to have in your back pocket is to always have a contract ready to go with an influencer. That's not something that you want to step into on just a verbal agreement or a handshake. That's something that you want to make sure that you have something that can keep everybody accountable. And it also can be very helpful when working, especially with an influencer who is a new relationship to you, if it's someone that you're working with on a collaboration or campaign for the very first time. Having a contract in place that's duly executed on both sides of the collaboration um, will be very useful in spelling out what the expectations are from the influencer. Other things to also keep in mind too in a contract would be things like what the payment terms would be or the compensation. And that way, everybody is completely on the same page from the get go of what the nature of the campaign should be, what is expected through the course of that campaign. And then hopefully it's a beautiful campaign and collaboration from there on out. Um, Other things to keep in mind as best practices, and this kind of goes back a little bit to my response to my last question too, knowing your why, right? When you're embarking in an influencer campaign, and especially if you're at the stage where you are recruiting a potential influencer to partner with, um, you should once again be very deliberate about what the objective is. So, like for example, I worked with a campaign. I worked with a brand one time who is in the food space. They are a brand that makes different types of like honey. They're kind of like a competitor to honey baked ham. It's not. I'm not name dropping. They're not honey baked ham. Think like honey baked ham. Okay. Um, they'd never embarked in influencer marketing before. So we partnered together. They wanted to step their toe into the influencer space as a test. And we worked together to recruit an influencer that was actually not in the food space. However, her partner was a chef and a ghostwriter for a celebrity who had released a cookbook and things like that. And I knew, because I had personally been a follower of their platform for many years, I knew that they were passionate about food. I knew that they, in their personal life, were also volunteering at a soup kitchen and things like that. There were all these little details that seemed to kind of like align the stars in the form of a test. So we partnered together, um, bringing together the brand and then the influencer on a Thanksgiving oriented campaign. It was at Thanksgiving time. We were able to penetrate the awareness of a new audience, because that was also one of the goals of this brand. They didn't want to just go after like the same type of client base that was their tried and true customer base. They wanted to try to see if influencer marketing could have been effective for them to reach a new audience. Um, and the way that we were measuring that was through clicks to the brand's website, with a UTM. We were checking to see how many promo code redemptions were being used. So one of the things that we did with the influencer was, for entering in blah, 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 they could get 20% off their order, or $20 or something like that. So there were little things that we could build into the campaign for measurement. And in the end, it was a really wonderful test, and the brand was very happy. Um, Another example that comes to mind, and this is I guess illustrates my point about making sure that you're really truly aligning yourself with someone that not only meets your goal, is it someone who aligns with the brand of the client or the brand that you are trying to market. Do they align? Does their audience align with who you're trying to reach? So, in an early instance, when I was embarking in influencer marketing, there was a brand that I was working with who is in the automotive space. And they have a product that you can find at Walmart and Pep Boys and like-minded retailers. And basically what they do is, for $20, you can buy a little kit and it can do surface level repairs on a car. So if you accidentally ding your car and chip the paint, we're not talking major body damage or anything like that. But if you do like a surface level little scratch, this is a at home do it yourself kit that you can buy at a Pep Boys store. And then you can sand it out and then repair it, and it looks just as good as new. It's great. They had never penetrated the influencer space before, and they were also curious to try testing it. And they were also interested in reaching a new young audience as well. At the time, their core client was usually male, and probably either, I would say, Gen X up through Boomer. They were interested in reaching millennials or younger. So we identified a influential personality who at the time was about 18 years old, and he was beyond a macro influencer. He was highly influential. His platform was built around taking these very luxurious six-figure end up vehicles and driving them, and this goes back a little bit too. I would say that at the time, the number one social platform back then was Instagram. So he had a lot of eye candy on his gram. This predates TikTok, predates the talks. So I reached out to him and we agreed, and thank goodness we had a binding contract in our back pocket. We did agree on a collaboration. He was paid for his time in advance. And one of the conditions of the campaign that we were going to collaborate on was that he would be intentionally putting a very surface level scratch in a Lamborghini and then demonstrating how this $20 product could successfully make the repair. Fast forward to when the campaign was to be executed, and I was checking in with him and just popping in and saying, "Hey, how's it going? How'd it go? Can't wait to see the content." And at first I had crickets. And then when he surfaced, he said, "Oh, I sold the car." And he was a little bit dismissive about it too. Oh my goodness, can you imagine? So I had to remind him and say, I'm quite disappointed to hear that. We do have an agreement that you signed on, our organization signed on. We need to find a way to resolve this. And ultimately we did. But had we not had that in place, I would have been in quite a predicament, going back to my client and saying this ended up not falling through. So cover your bases, make sure you're parting with somebody whose ethics are consistent with your own and your brand. And of course, your brand messaging and their audience as well.
Gotcha. Well, sounds like back to that North Star, right? Not only know your why, know your audience, have your bases covered. I saw a couple of responses in the chat about how important contracts can be. So very good info. And I'm assuming, though, that $20 scratch repair won't take care of my little guy running into my car with his bike in the driveway, right? I mean, maybe I should go back and check that out. But
how bad's the damage? Maybe.
Well, we'll talk about that another time. But thank you so much, Jessica. Again, great response. Jennifer, if you don't mind, I know we chatted a little bit. You mentioned AI before. I did want to kind of circle back since it's such a hot topic and taking things by storm. Next question. How do you anticipate the role of AI and automation will evolve in social media marketing strategies? If you can elaborate a little bit on that.
Yeah, so envisioning how we're going to actually embrace and utilize the tool is tough. So what I can probably more confidently talk about is some thoughts about how to embrace it. We need to. Yes, it's traveling at light speed. And no, you do not need to know absolutely every tool and every option that there is to utilize it. You do not have to implement it in every area of your business or marketing department. But it is important, and it's going to become more important, to understand what AI can do to assist you, and then find the right tool for your brand, right? And for your business. Some of the things that I think marketers should spend a little bit of time exploring is, what are some of the processes and procedures that really take a lot of time, but not necessarily a lot of creativity or brain power? How can we use some of the AI or automation tools to streamline that? It's like giving people a bot to ask FAQ questions to on your website, right? There's a lot of similarity to that, but now we have just so much more of an option. One of the things I love it for is ideation. Sometimes we get stuck, and I don't know if maybe I'm the only one, but I'm going to guess I'm not. But sometimes I get really stuck. What should I post about? What should I write about? We've been part of this brand for 5 years. We're still talking about some of the same things that are important to our audience. So how do I make it new? How do I make it fresh? You can use AI to help spark things. And if you get savvy enough to create a custom GPT or a custom non-open source version of whatever AI tool you're using, you can also put in all of the brand guide information that you have and really teach it your brand, right? One of the ways that I use it is, if I am writing a letter or an email to our educational partners or to our community, I can sit down and I can type that out, but you know what? It kind of sounds like everything else I've ever written. So then I go over to my AI tool, which I use ChatGPT a lot, and I think it's perfectly acceptable at this point. And I tell it what I'm trying to do, and I give it my copy, and I ask how I can make it better, right? So I'm not just asking it to draft it for me, because I do think sometimes when we do that, we go the reverse and we ask it to draft first. We don't edit it to not sound like AI.
Yeah.
But when we write it ourselves, there's enough brand personality, authenticity in it, because it just changes a few words or helps you think about bullet pointing. Another thing that right now I'm really excited about, and I'll just kind of share with you, I'm testing a tool called FlowSend AI. And what it does is I can upload webinars, podcasts, pretty much any audio or video recording. Because one of the most time consuming things for my team is finding moments. Like I come here, I spend an hour, I might say something kind of smart that they want to share on social, right? But how do you do that? Well, you got to listen to all of it. Well, the thing that FlowSend AI does is it listens to it for you, and it will pull out timestamps and possible quotes that you might want to put on your social. So now you can go to that specific section and say, here Jen talked about AI, here she talked about trends in social media, and we can get a little bit more granular instead of wasting all that time. But it also allows to say, hey, but there was more than just one speaker. So Rosario said this thing here that was really neat. Jessica said this thing over here that was really neat. And it can pull out those things so we can streamline that effectiveness and go there and pull those clips. So stuff like that, which can help cut down time and allow for creativity, is really powerful. And that's what I think we need to be focused on.
Wonderful, wonderful. I think you hit it right on the head. As I was looking at some of the comments in the chat, Olivia did mention it's blatantly obvious when an email is not personalized in any way. Jonathan, as he mentioned, just like you said, that's why you edit it, make sure it's tightened up. But if you don't mind, Jennifer, I did want to follow up because, of course, we want to make sure we do a little bit of damage control as well in case something does go out that might not be the way we wanted it. How should businesses manage negative feedback or a social media crisis in real time?
That is a whole nother seminar in and of itself. But the first thing is we have to be paying attention, right? And we need a plan. So Jessica did a great job of talking about understanding your North Star and your goals. But we have to plan for the worst case scenario also. And then we are hoping it doesn't happen. But if and when it does, we know who is responding, where they're responding, maybe what approvals they need to get before they respond. The size of the negative feedback or crisis can be anything from somebody's angry and says something not very flattering to, 100,000 things were shipped out and did not make it to their final destination, right? Or they did, but they all had some sort of fatal flaw. So there's a huge gap, and what you do in each of those scenarios varies greatly. So if you have a plan, something that comes in on the lower end, on that negative side, right, that says, I just don't like you very much. Well, you have a person, or maybe hopefully people, who can respond to that and say, I'm so sorry that you've had that situation. We'd like to learn more. Ideally, you will take that offline then and say, get the details. Don't get the details out there where everyone can read them, but respond out there, pull them offline, answer the situation, and try to solve that for them. Maybe it's giving them a new resource or getting a point of contact. If it's something super challenging, like everything is malfunctioning, well, then you might have to do something a lot bigger. You might need to get public relations involved. You might have to have internal and external communications proactively sent out to people. So not just responding to the people who are mad at you online, but the people who haven't seen it yet. So you don't just increase the number of people who are mad at you online. So if you have that plan, that priority level, who's in charge, how it's going to roll out, you can be a lot more effective in addressing those negative situations and those crisis problems.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much. And I do believe Jessica has something to add on to that.
I do. And I'm so excited that I finally got to raise my hand. I'm used to using Microsoft Teams, so WebEx is a whole new frontier for me. From the beginning of 2020 to the end of 2020, right during the breakout of COVID, there was a period of time where I was also doing some marketing work for a local arts nonprofit. And let me tell you, COVID was hard for every single industry, but people don't realize the way that the arts were impacted during that time. And the work that I was doing was with an arts nonprofit who relied on grants, donations, but also ticket sales in order to sustain their efforts. They did live concerts, they did plays, they did all kinds of really awesome community-based artistic events. And then COVID happened, and the curtain had to come down. At the time, they were relying on me to help support their social media strategy, particularly when it came to public relations. They had to cancel every single show that ticket holders had. And they were also not being quick to give people full refunds on that, because the idea was that they were going to be not canceling the show, they were rescheduling those performances. And people, particularly, there were some elderly folks who were very, very agitated and disappointed that their Barry Manilow cover show was canceled and that they weren't getting their money back. So I became the eyes and the ears and the voice of the brand through the power of social media, right? And that's also like a really amazing thing about social media, right? When people didn't have the ability to come back to that particular brand, we were leveraging social media to still be able to contact people even though we were physically distanced from them. And I think that the thing that got us through strategically was using social, because it for a little town, this was quite scandalous. This may not have been like products not reaching hundreds of thousands of customers, but it was significant enough in their landscape that it made a difference. And at the end of the day, the thing that really kept them from losing credibility with people and that kept loyal, engaged followers was by designing a message that took accountability for the event, but it also reiterated the mission of the brand. And then as a last effort, it spelled out what the next action steps would be so that everybody would be reconciled and the solution would be. So I think that that's also like a key thing to keep in mind too, how to navigate a social media based or PR or what have you, whatever the tactic is, crisis in marketing. It's illustrating all of those things. And if you're missing any one of those things, that's when you can lose credibility with people. When they feel like they're not being heard or they're not clear on how things are going to be quote unquote made right in the world. That's how you have a misstep and you end up not effectively making people satisfied.
I love that, Jessica. There's so many examples. I think you and I could probably, and everybody here could talk about some. There was a big wireless company not all that long ago who had some interruption of service for a couple of days. Mm-hmm. And so they decided to do that, be proactive, reach out to everybody, but they weren't super authentic and they buried the lead, right? Like they were going to give people money back on their bill, but it took them 3 pages in a written letter that they put out via social channels and email, right, to communicate. But it was on page 3 what they were going to get and when they were going to get it. And it's like, no, be upfront, be transparent, tell everybody right now. Well, and the other thing that I think comes to my mind when we talk about crisis is we first go to situations, and I love that you brought up COVID, because COVID was not something any of us could have controlled, or at least I'm going to guess none of us could have, right? So there's more of that than there is what everybody thinks about as a social media crisis, which is that person that's ticked off or that influencer or that bad news and publicity piece. And it's natural disasters, it's global pandemics. We just posted, I think it was on Tuesday, might have been Thursday last week, I can't recall, a blog post from one of our community members who works at a healthcare facility in Indiana. And she was struggling because they had a big snowstorm coming into the area that was going to affect patient surgeries, visiting the hospital, all these types of things. And they had to use social to communicate. But we used to use Twitter for that. Now with the exodus, right, of everybody from X, Twitter isn't the go-to for the most people. So she was in this situation of trying to figure out, where do we go now? And if we're planning, and she had thankfully done some planning and was able to use this fairly small storm to do some A/B testing. She looked at Blue Sky, she looked at Threads, she put it on Facebook. And for her audience, Facebook actually won out in the place where her audience came for the information. But that might be different for each of us, right? The wildfires in California, my social media coordinator and manager is out there, and she says the place she goes for news is actually TikTok, which again is unfortunate. If it actually gets shut down, we'll have to see. But it all depends on your audience. It all depends on knowing where they're spending time and then trying to go to those places, even in the case of a natural disaster. And so having a plan, being true and authentic, telling people what you can, when you can, is super key to that plan.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Again, knowing your audience, right? So going back, Jessica, again, love that North Star. So good deal on
I
that.
live by my North Star. What could I say?
Yeah.
That's wonderful. So yeah, let's back up a little bit, saying again, knowing your audience, right? Knowing who you're speaking to, knowing, everyone's on the same page. If you don't mind, Jennifer, did want to have kind of a question to follow up with that. For those that are just starting out, what are some ways to gain that hands-on experience in social media marketing without a lot of formal experience or a big network? And then how do you grow your social media portfolio if you're just starting out?
It's a good question. And for each of us, because honestly, social media and social media marketing is a fairly broad, it describes a lot of broad things, right? Everything from short form video creation to short form content to long form content to social media community management to analytics. So there's all those things in there. So how you develop your portfolio will be based a little bit on some of that information. But one of the things that I suggest, and a lot of people grumble about it, is that you need to build your own personal brand first. Whether it's right or not to be based, to be judged on, can you do this for my company if you can't even do it for yourself, is irrelevant. Like, we can't even get into that discussion, because the reality is you are. As a marketing professional, if you're not building your own brand, people will go, well, how can I trust that you're doing that? So spend some time. Maybe it is on LinkedIn, because that is like a professional place to go, especially for those looking for internships or networking opportunities, and build that brand there. And then choose your other platform, right? If you're a content creator and you really are going to do a lot of video, then what is that platform? Where are the companies that you want to work for spending their time? Because those are maybe some platforms or channels you want to look at as well. But from there, you can do some training, certifications. Of course, I will talk about those, but you've got to implement them some way. So are there internships, paid or unpaid? Are there nonprofits where you could give some of your experience and build that portfolio up? I know there's a lot of nonprofits who would love volunteer work in that kind of a way, right? I'm not saying do everything for free, but sometimes, depending on where you are in your career, it's valuable to do something to be able to add it to that portfolio. And I think the thing I notice the most is that once we do land in the marketing world, we stop building our portfolio. And I would strongly recommend not doing that. Understand what you can and can't share from your current employer as part of yours, I did this thing. And while you're in that moment, white label some of the things that were really great, right? If you can't put out brand specific information, great. talk about it in a very benign way, right? That's not giving out any industry information or proprietary information, but you're building that. You've got that. When you're someone that's a little older like myself, it's tough to go back and go, well, yeah, I did this, and this was the actual return on my investment for that. And here's how I partnered with these influencers or these other partners. This is how I collaborated on that. Write it down, put it in your portfolio, and keep building both that network and your portfolio, because unfortunately, we do not live in an era where we will stay with one company for 20, 25 years very often.
Good call. Thank you so much, Jennifer. And Jessica, did want to follow up with a question. Jennifer, you did touch on it. You did mention, hey, at my age, at this point in my career, going down that road there. Jessica, thoughts? As a social media marketer looking for career opportunities in the field, how is age viewed? Should one lean toward hiding their maturity or embrace it? Thoughts on that, as Jennifer just mentioned, hey, at my age, at this point in career, what are your thoughts about, kind of letting others know about your experience or age as if you're just starting out?
That's an interesting question. You know, I think that to be consistent with the way that the thing that feeds social media is authenticity, right? And why should your maturity or your level of experience be any different? And I think it's important. I think that it's important to also be forthcoming. I guess, hold on, let me reverse and answer the question in a new way. No, I don't think that there's any shame. I don't think it's taboo to disclose where you are in your career, whether you are just starting out as a marketer. And I can see how that might be intimidating for people, right? I could imagine somebody who's just getting started being like, maybe feeling insecure or intimidated and disclosing to a potential client or a client that they're onboarding and saying, I'm new. I'm a new graduate. I'm in the dawn of my career, right? As long as you can demonstrate that you have the talent, capability, competency to handle their brand with care, right? Because at the end of the day, I don't think a client, unless they're very deliberate, right? In trying to get someone with more experience, right? They'll be very forthcoming in most cases to say, I'm looking for somebody who is a specialist, right? And if they're looking for a specialist, then you should be forthcoming and be honest about where you're at and your skill set and your experience. Or they might say, hey, I'm looking myself as a business owner to market to a younger generation. And you as a marketer being young in your career, that's peer to peer, right? I think a company would recognize that. And here's the thing to keep also in mind, guys, too, especially if you are going to go the direction of being a freelance marketer and you are not working for someone else, you're your own boss and you're starting your own company as a marketer, you also have every right to fire a client. It has to work on both sides if it's going to work. So I think that no, you should not feel intimidated to be honest about where your skill set is. It's the only way that you can set yourself up for success. It's the only way that you can market your client with integrity. Also, they have a right to know who it is that they're hiring, and if they're entrusting you to handle their marketing for them, they should also have realistic expectations of what the person or company that they're bringing aboard.
Awesome. Very, very great advice. And I think you're spot on. Jennifer, anything to add to that? I know that was kind of an interesting
I
question,
was
right?
giving a lot of love there because I absolutely agree with Jessica. I do a lot of work with job seekers, and I will put a link in the chat if anyone wants. One of the ways that I volunteer is I give 30-minute profile reviews for LinkedIn, and I'm happy to do that for anyone either in transition or just needing like a second pair of eyes, because like somebody mentioned it's intimidating even when you have it to put it out there, have that experience. It's hard. But I've talked to a lot of people who say, I don't even want to put an updated headshot on my LinkedIn because it shows the gray in my hair. And I am totally with Jessica. Be you, because frankly, you're going to waste your time and theirs if that's going to be the reason that they're not going to hire you, because they're going to find out. Like, it's impossible to keep that from them. What I do see a lot in the work that I do is I see a lot of older folks who had a traditional background, and maybe they've been doing the social for a long time now, but they don't have any proof other than, well, I've been managing this team. And so that's where certifications can help a lot, is because it shows that you're paying attention to the new technologies and you're paying attention to stuff that's not just the traditional media. And that can kind of help set you apart as well. But yeah, you've got to be true to who you are. Don't waste your time or theirs, because it's not going to do anything but hurt your mental health in that process.
And hurt your personal brand too.
Yes. Yeah.
Wow, excellent, excellent responses. Thank you both so much. I certainly want to be respectful of everyone's time, and I know we're all waiting for the prize wheel. However, I do have one last question, Jessica, if you don't mind. Did want to ask you, especially for those, again, trying to get that visibility, just starting out, what are some effective strategies for gaining visibility and standing out in the marketing job market, especially in this competitive field, social media?
I was so hoping that we wouldn't run out of time for this question. I'm so happy that we were able to like slip this one in. You know, I'm ready for it. So my response is not tethered to social media. I think that when it comes to standing out, especially to market yourself, it comes back to the creative, and it comes back to something that makes people stop what they're doing and pay attention, right? That type of creative genius, right? That feels palpable. So I have an example of something that has stood out to me and that has continued to be my quote unquote North Star. And by the way, my team makes fun of me all the time for saying North Star. This isn't something that I just keep dropping in the call. I use it a lot in life. But yeah, so this example is not a social media example, but it's the one that has stayed in my mind as a source of inspiration again and again. And I think it's a good example that can translate different fields of marketing. So one time I came across an article where someone was being interviewed about their first job out of college. And this is a person who is a senior top tier creative director at one of the leading advertising agencies in the, not even just the United States, but across the globe. And they were saying that the way that they got started was when they were fresh out of school as a new grad, and they were trying to get that very first job out of college. This was back in either the 80s or the early 90s. And they were hitting the pavement, going to interviews, hoping that they could get their design portfolio in the door and across somebody's desk who had hiring decision-making power. And this person identified their dream job. They wanted to work as a graphic designer at this top tier agency, but it was very competitive. So what this person did is they went to like a Macy's or a Sears and they bought a men's wallet. And it's one of those wallets that like, it's like leather and it folds and then you open it up. And I feel like we have less of this because everything is digitized today, but it was one of those wallets that like you open it up and then this like accordion style, like vinyl thing falls out. And in that they have little slots where you can slide in like business cards and photographs and whatever you want, right? So this individual took a wallet, and then for each of those little business card sized slots, this person designed their own business cards. But if you looked very closely at the details on each of the different business cards, it was their resume and their design portfolio. And they mocked it up to make it resemble a business card. And then what they did is they inserted it into each of the different slots. And they also designed a fake driver's license that resembled the decision maker at the agency. So then what they did is they mocked up this wallet. They walked into the building where the agency's headquarters was, went up to the receptionist, and they said, "Hi, my name is blah, blah, blah. I found this on the street. It's so weird. And I wanted to make sure that it was returned to its rightful owner. I found something inside that indicates that this person works here. Can I leave this with you?" And then the receptionist was like, "Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you so much." And then guess what? That wallet was whisked away and put on the person's desk. And then when they saw it, of course, they were like, "This isn't mine. I don't know what this is." And then they're going through the contents of it, and they looked closely and they said, "Holy cow, this is someone's resume and their application for a job here. What a creative, dynamic way to get in front of me, to get my attention. This person understood the assignment and they executed it flawlessly. This is the kind of out of box thinking and talent that I want on my marketing team." So it's not a social media example, but I think that when you can, that kind of creativity, it's like lightning in a bottle. And I think that when you can find a way to take that concept and that energy and out of box thinking and you apply it to marketing yourself, that's the kind of thing that makes employers pay attention, right? Who wouldn't want somebody with that kind of creativity on their marketing team? I know I would want that kind of person on my bench.
Wow, that is absolutely fascinating. It's such an interesting way to gain the attention of the decision makers. So that is awesome. And I just want to confirm, you are telling everyone it's okay to go through someone's wallet if you find it outside, right? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm also not endorsing identity theft necessarily either.
Thank you. I was going to say, and also make some
No,
fake
no, no,
IDs.
no,
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 just
no.
kidding.
Be ethical. Be
No, no.
ethical.
No, that really is a phenomenal story, true story, and obviously very well played on that person's part. Seems like they got the job and went on to do great things. So that is absolutely wonderful. Thank you so much, Jessica. Jennifer, of course, don't want to take any time away from you. Anything to add? I know we've got a couple things to get to, but certainly want to see if you had any final thoughts.
No, it was wonderful being here with you all. I did put both my LinkedIn and the profile calendar link in the chat. So if anyone needs it or has questions, I'm happy to help. And I'm just excited to see who will be joining the next SMS prep class.
All right, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Yes.
Again, thank you, panelists. Ashley, yep, I was going to say if we can go ahead and get that great info back up on the screen. I know we have some exciting next steps.
Yes. So first off, we're going to just share about our next event, and then we have the spin the wheel ready to go. Malcolm, our student president, is actually going to share a little bit about our next event, so you could be ready for a social media contest that we're going to be doing. So, I meant to go back to where we were. Okay, so Malcolm, I'm going to give it to you for a minute if you want to go ahead and just share about this before we spin the wheel.
Yes. Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's been enjoying the event. And yes, we have our social media contest workshop is coming up on January 23rd. So that's going to be next week. And it's basically a workshop where everybody will get to hop in a round robin style and get some tips and tricks on different avenues of social media, whether that's the design piece with Canva, we talked about with AI, different prompts, how to use those prompts, and how to get the best results out of using AI, and then caption writing, SEO. So each of us student leaders will be leading those different work groups, and this will help you all with the social media strategy contest that's coming up as well. So hope to see everybody there. If you all want to scan the QR code to kind of register for that right now, it's going to be very exciting. And I'm looking forward to seeing everybody and networking and getting the opportunity to work with you all.
Thanks, Malcolm. Yes, and we will, and Rachel's going to post a link to the form. We have a contest that's going to be opening next week that you can enter and have your social media ad show up. And so come to our workshop, whether join one of our breakout rooms or work on your ad during that time. So with further ado, let's get our spin the wheel going here. And there were some kinds without the last names, but I know the order I put them in, so we'll know who they are. And once I spin it, Rosario, you can call the winner out. Here we go.
All right, here we go. And forgive me if I look like I'm staring at the screen here. It's a little bit smaller on my side, but it looks like it landed on, oh, there we go, that's better. Jonathan, hopefully we know who Jonathan is. Congratulations.
Yes, Jonathan, please email. I'll write in here AMA, WGU AMA. So I'll send you our email here. If you could email us your email address and student ID, and we will get that over to you right away. And we'll get that over to you today or tomorrow with emails and instruction on how to claim your prize. And then finally, I'll put the last slide up for you to, lead us out as we head out.
Absolutely. And congratulations again, Jonathan. Very exciting for you. Great prize to win, valued at almost $1,500. So absolutely awesome. And as we move forward, just as it says there, how to stay engaged, we would love for you to join our WGU AMA chapter. Quite a bargain for undergraduates, only $29 annually. A little bit more expensive for graduates, but a great way to get involved and stay engaged. You can visit the site ama.org/membership to purchase that membership. Register for that event that Malcolm just mentioned there on the 23rd. Come on in, introduce yourself to the AMA WGU Teams channel. Always have fun events, those networking opportunities. Who doesn't love a little bit of motivational Monday and a great, just another support network. So thank you again so much for all those in attendance. Thank you, Jennifer Radke. Thank you, Jessica Steinweg. Great, great conversation and discussion. We hope you all enjoyed it and certainly looking forward to seeing you at the next event. Thank you so much and have a great night, everyone.
Thank
guys.
you, everyone.
Good night, everyone. Thanks for joining.
Have a good night.
Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.